All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Cut to the Chase Sports Podcast. We're doing a little live reaction for you. If you're watching on Twitter, we appreciate y'all. If you're watching on YouTube, we appreciate y'all. I'm your host, Chase Johnson. Got my guy Justin Lacey to the right. Justin, what's going on with you?
Man, it's been a really good football weekend. You know what I mean? Like 3 out of the 4 games were really good. They were very competitive. Damn near went down to the wire for 3 out of the 4. Baltimore was a big blowout, but they kept it close at halftime. It was tie score 10-10, but
Yeah,
you know, so ultimately at the end of the day, man, it was a good football weekend. I have to say, even the game that just literally ended, I did not expect an ending like that, but at the end of the day, tip of the cap to Kansas City, man, for pulling off the win.
exactly. And before we talk about that Kansas City game, if you guys would like this video, subscribe to the YouTube page and everything. Trying to do good things over here. We appreciate you guys tuning in and everything. But turn on post notifications, all that stuff that every YouTuber says and everything. But trying to grow our thing over here. We appreciate y'all. But yeah, that first game, not the first game, the most recent game that we were just talking about, that Chiefs game,
Yeah.
20-24. The Chiefs ended up getting the victory. I mean, think about, everyone's going to remember that last play, when it came to the kick with Tyler Bass and
Mhm.
the two words that people from Buffalo do not want to ever hear in their lives. And they heard it on the television if they were watching, wide right. And I mean, the Buffalo fans right now going through it. Like
Mhm.
it is not good at the moment. There's a lot of stuff that they have to go figure out and everything. It's been a weird year for them. It's been a weird year for Kansas City. Kansas City's year gets to go on a week longer than the Bills. Um, Justin, what were your first thoughts on this game?
It was a competitive game. And I mean, look, I know we've been hearing a ton of talk during the commentary about this is the media, this the next Manning versus Brady. That was annoying to hear, especially as a Bengals fan who understands who's the real big dog in the fight. They
Yeah.
kept it seemed like they kept forgetting to bring up Joe Burrow's name. I heard Lamar Jackson's name a few times, but respect to those guys, man. They're still in the playoffs and they're still fighting.
Mm.
Joe Burrow's still resting up from his injury. So this is not obviously while I'm a Bengals fan, not really going to talk much about Bengals stuff right now because respectfully, the game was Chiefs Bills. As annoying it was to hear about that, you can see why by the game how they was laying out lead changes back and forth, man. And it felt like it was going to be a few more going into the fourth quarter until the defense really kind of like stepped it up for both sides of the ball. There still was a lot of running games like that was still, allotted on both sides. The Bills were really good at rushing the ball, but the Chiefs actually was just committing to just playing really good upfront defense to just pressure the receivers. Nobody really got off like that for real. Stephon Diggs, he could have, but it just didn't really happen for him. I mean, the Chiefs defense, they adjusted very well. Spagnuolo, he kind of looked and saw like, okay, we got to make some adjustments here. A lot like how we talk about with our boy Lou Anarumo. Steve Spagnuolo has been underrated for the last few years as the defensive coordinator, and you got
Mhm.
to give the tip of the cap to him as well too. The turning point where you thought like it just felt like that this was going to be Buffalo's moment, and you know where I'm about to go, was the fumble in the end zone.
Yep.
That was a great play by Jordan Poyer, man. I was when I saw that happen, I'm like, I don't think he got the fumble. I thought he was down,
Mhm.
but then they challenged it, and then when they reversed the call, I was like, oh boy, this is it. This is it.
Yeah.
The Bills,
Mhm. This is the
they're
moment.
feeling it. And I think that's why it hurts Buffalo so much. It's not so much the missed kick. I mean, it is, yeah, but
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's literally wide right 2.0. But you had the moment laid out right there. And it was just ripped out from the rug from you. And you really got yourself to blame in this. I'm sorry, you just do. Like Kansas City, I felt like didn't do anything as greatly special other than Mahomes. He kept the offense afloat. But we can't not mention that you had Stephon Diggs wide open. The throw that he had in the end zone that he missed, he had Stephon Diggs in the flat, and he just needed to do was get a first down, and you would have been able to position yourself to run a clock even more and potentially get a game-winning touchdown.
Mhm.
But no, you missed that throw because you want to get greedy, Josh Allen, to make the big throw like it was the 21 divisional playoff round, like you threw that big long laser to Gabe Davis. That's not this game, man. But you had all the momentum. And I know it's look, I know it sucks for Bills fans, man, because like you said, those words are going to forever live in infamy again. Wide right 2.0 with the newer iteration of the fan base.
Mhm.
I know, I get it, man. It hurts. It hurts,
Yeah.
but at the end, you know what? I will say this because you and I both picked the Bills to kind of. We felt like this was their time to represent themselves in the Super Bowl. They had the role map. They had the roadmap laid out for them,
Yep.
and it just didn't work out. This right here is a really big reason why I won't call him a choke artist or anything like that. It's just unfortunate things happen, man, and you got to kind of live. You got to kind of live with the bed you made. That's
Yeah.
all I really got to say about it for now, for the time being. But I'll pass it to you for your thoughts, obviously.
Yeah, and it's just crazy because, like, Patrick Mahomes can't go down, man. I mean, regardless of what happens, he's always standing afloat. And
Hmm.
Mahomes today, it wasn't like he had his like a ridiculous performance or any record breaking numbers. I was looking at the numbers of here: 17 for 23, 215, 2 touchdowns. Like,
Right.
some pedestrian numbers, but he didn't turn the ball over. You know, when he needed to make throws, he made throws and was able to
Hmm.
extend plays with his legs and everything. Like he played a pretty good game, and it was just this was a different form of Bills versus Chiefs. And I don't want to I don't want to bring up the Bengals all the time, but this looked like a Bengals Chiefs game in a way. It looked exact. I'm okay. The score was 27-24, which has happened twice out of the 4 times in the rivalry between these two. But the defense was the reason in the end of why the game was won. I know the missed kick and everything, but you saw defenses make plays in the fourth quarter. There was the other play where Damar Hamlin literally had a fake punt, and he tried to run for a first down because of some personnel thing that the Chiefs had. They had less
I think
guys than what
10,
the Bills
10
had. And
players on the field, right? If
yeah,
I'm not
exactly.
mistaken. Yeah.
So they tried to take advantage of that. And the Chiefs defense having one less guy on the field, they still made the stop. And then you're like, oh, the Chiefs, man, they're in great position. They're probably going to go up 10 now. This game could be something. And then like Justin mentioned, and we all remember, I mean, the fumble that went out of the end zone for a touchback, and the Bills have their opportunity. But the defenses for both teams just kept stepping up. And Tony Romo, I will say this: there were a lot of things with Tony Romo being like, he's gonna have a very fun day in the booth because it's Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, and that's the only thing I'll say about that.
Oh yeah.
But he did make a prediction though, early in the fourth quarter. He was like, I have a feeling that it's going to come down to these defenses that win the game, opposed to these quarterbacks winning the game. And what happened that entire fourth quarter? It was all defense.
It was all
Defense,
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 man.
defense.
All defense.
And that's one thing that stepped up for the Chiefs this year has
For
been their
sure. For
defense.
sure.
Like you mentioned with Steve
Well,
Spagnuolo, he's been underrated as the but yeah, go with that.
well, Buffalo too. I mean, like
Yeah,
their
but
defense has
yeah,
gotten
exactly.
better
Yeah.
as
Mhm.
well, and they with all the injuries that they've nursed throughout the season, I was really shocked by their defense too. Again, which is why, in large part, why I've picked them and recalibrated my mind from like it just feels like
Exactly.
it could be Buffalo's time because it felt like that they came together as a unit. To me, this game doesn't change that referendum behind Buffalo, but I will have to say this everybody's now going the talk is going to be Josh Allen. We're still waiting for that statement game. He's had statement games in the playoffs, man. Like again,
Yes.
let me bring up 2021 for a second to kind of defend Josh Allen here. First game against New England.
Yeah.
People predicted. I mean, if you look at the score at that time and go back and during that time, before that game was even played, people predicted that the Patriots were going to upset Buffalo.
Oh
They
yeah, it
had
was
thought because that
yeah.
was the game that before when the second meeting of the two in the regular season, that was when Mac Jones had like threw 3 passes and they still beat the Bills 14 to
Yeah.
10 or something. It was
Oh yeah.
freaking crazy. But then the playoffs happened. And then Josh Allen was just on a he was just on a mission to
They
just to
didn't even
destroy
punt
this
that
team.
game. They did not punt that game.
Nope.
It was
Nope.
it was insane. They
47 to
scored
7, I think was the final score or
Yeah, I think
whatnot, I believe.
they scored like every drive and didn't punt. It was an
And it
unbelievable
was all
performance.
touched. It felt like
Yep.
it was all touchdowns too. I just feel
Mhm.
like it was just one of those days where that was his main statement win,
Yeah.
and then in the divisional round, it was another great game. Everybody
Yep.
talks about it still to this day.
Yeah.
And then in 2022, he had the lackadaisical win against Skylar Thompson in the playoffs and before getting beat down against our Bengals. But This year, it felt a little bit different. Like it felt like they were more reserved. And yeah, they had the big statement victory against Pittsburgh. But what we're missing is not necessarily a statement game. It's the signature game in the
Yeah.
postseason.
No.
This could have been it. It really could have been.
It would
Just
have
think
been, I
about it.
believe. Yeah.
It
It
it,
would
it
have
would
been.
have most definitely. If he would have won this game, his jersey would be in Canton, Ohio by now. Like
Yeah.
like right now
It'd be on
after
the way.
this
It'd
game.
be on the way
It
right
will be
there.
on the way. And
Yeah.
I say that because for the people for the listeners out there that's listening to this, when you have a signature game, it's not necessarily defined by your statistical performance. That will I mean part of it could be, but more or less that tends to go more towards the statement category when you have a statement performance. A signature win, there's just all of these kind of chaotic things that come about to where part of it can be luck. When you think of the most signature games in NFL history, like first and foremost, like the Immaculate Reception.
Yeah.
I know I'm going into the Pittsburgh Raiders game. That was a signature moment that caused the major turnaround that built the dynasty. The Patriots with Tom Brady. When you think of that first game that started everything for them, you think of the Tuck Rule game. That was the signature game. It
Yep.
wasn't about stat lines or anything like that. Peyton Manning, the signature stat performance in the sense was, you know, I can think of regular season off the top of my head was the come from behind victory in '03 against the Buccaneers
Yep.
that
Monday
when he
Night
was down
Football.
3 scores in 5 minutes. That's what I'm talking about. Like this game felt like it was on the verge of being that for Josh Allen. Not so much for Patrick Mahomes, but for Allen, that this was your moment right here. And you had the fumble in the back of the end zone for the Chiefs that gave you the opportunity. And
Yep.
even when they stopped you and you got the ball back, it's just because again, when I thought that they was getting the ball back, I was like, man, the Chiefs, they're not going to punt. It's over. Then you
Oh
had a
yeah.
chance to race down the field. You were milking the clock. It's under 2 minutes. You're deep in your own their territory. All you got to do is just punch it in, and you're good. Game's over. You're probably going to have the defense seal the rest of the game away, or whatever seconds that was going to be left at that time. But then the wide right happened.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, it's tough. It's tough for Bills fans right now. I feel for you, Bills Mafia. And again,
Yeah.
I got to give credit to what credit is due. This is the championship DNA that the Chiefs kingdom has. That they'll be able to pull out wins like this, even when they're not matching up on a player for player, roster for roster stat sheet, whatever that you want to call it. Even when they don't match up well, seemingly against their competitors, because they have championship DNA. That's a real tangible. Well, I won't call it tangible. It's a real intangible feeling that a team can have when you've won so much as they have, to the point where it's like I can't rule them out against the Ravens on the road, even if I want to.
Yep.
I just can't. Baltimore's on a tear right now, but I can't rule out Kansas City to go over there, pull off another road playoff win, because that was the narrative that they heard all week. They haven't won a
Mm-hmm.
road playoff game. They had never went to a road playoff game in Patrick Mahomes' era. They did it.
There you go.
They did it. So, but but to your point, man, the defenses, man, stepped up big time. It did feel like a Bengals Chiefs game for real. It really did.
It really did though, man. But yeah, and then briefly, I know this game happened yesterday. It was the Ravens and Texans. We can briefly talk about this one. The
Sure,
Ravens took
sure.
care of business over the Texans 34-13. It was, was it 34-13 or 10? I because I didn't really
I don't
watch a
even think the
whole.
Texans scored another point
I don't think they did
throughout the rest of the
actually.
second
Yeah,
half.
I just had in my mind. So the score is 34-10. All right. It was a graphics error. But nonetheless, the Ravens went on and won that game and everything. I had to call a women's basketball game yesterday. So I was just, it was at 4 o'clock, so I didn't get to watch a whole lot of this game. But from what I saw, from what I actually saw, the Ravens pretty much dominated this whole game. CJ Stroud was just, they kind of were just playing, with CJ Stroud in the palm of their hand. It was just, the Ravens just really controlled this one. What'd you think?
Yeah, so the Ravens definitely, this was just a prototypical classic beatdown game that the Ravens just had. They played their brand of football. That's kind of how you define this game. There was nothing special about, anything that Baltimore did. They were playing like they played any regular season. Um, they they kept it again. It was interesting going in the first half. It was 10-10. I
Yep.
felt like Houston was figuring things out defensively. Like all right, I think they found a little way to kind of neutralize Lamar Jackson a bit here.
Mm-hmm.
They
Yeah.
got it. They hit him a few times, got a few sacks. But then the second half happened, and then the run game from Baltimore just started unleashing. And then the
Yep.
defense knew how to play guys like CJ Stroud to where, look, I love CJ Stroud. we're big CJ Stroud guys here. Like we
Yeah.
love what he does at the quarterback position. He models his game after Joe Burrow, but he's not Joe Burrow, and the Ravens know that.
Yeah.
The Ravens know how to play against guys like that. That the thing is, you got to knock them off their spot. There were way too many times in the second half that I saw that CJ Stroud was getting knocked off his spot. CJ wants to be able to just stand and deliver in the pocket and then make quick reads and deliver the ball on time.
Yeah.
Well, rookie CJ Stroud is going to learn the hard way that when you go against an elite processing level defense such as the Ravens, you're not always going to have those kind of looks. You're not advanced in that state of mind yet. You'll get there one day, but you're not there yet.
Yeah.
So that was an outclassed matchup right there that I already saw. Even though I felt like CJ Stroud could have made some bit better plays in that game. It felt like he was always rolling out to the right, because Baltimore schematically, defensively sent pressure towards the left and up the middle for him to do that. And then the rest of the secondary was knew that they was going to cover their guys in the flat. It
Yeah.
didn't seem like Nico Collins had a big day. He had a nice catch, down the middle. It felt like that CJ Stroud we thought was going to get that momentum, but the momentum slowly died away when they missed that field goal to end the first half. That's
Yeah.
kind of how I saw it. And then
Yeah.
when the second half took off, Baltimore took off. Lamar Jackson, he played the classic Lamar Jackson game. You had almost 100 yards rushing, just slightly under 200 yards passing, 2 touchdowns passing, 2 touchdowns rushing. It wasn't anything that I felt like this was his big time classic moment, kind of like what I was talking about when we were talking about signature moments for the Bills. But it was a statement performance for him. I'm sure that he's heard the talk of being 1-3 in the playoffs
Yeah.
and how much that kind of looms over and looms large. I know a lot of our Bengals fan base on Bengals Twitter talks about it when we in these conversations with Ravens fans and stuff. And
Yeah.
don't get me started on Ravens fans right now because they are
We
they are they are
we'll
much more of a headache to deal with at times than Chiefs fans on Twitter. But
put that aside. Yeah.
we're gonna put social media aside because that's not about this conversation. But
Yeah.
Lamar had to probably hear all that stuff. But also, what I can feel when I'm watching Lamar that this dude is determined to win a championship, and you can see it with this play. Okay, so right, but however, and I think that he has I don't want to say I think I know he has the team to get it done.
He does.
That defense, man, not that no one's giving a lot of credit to the defense. They're giving all the credit to Lamar because they're winning these games. But man, that defense is just light years killing it right now. And I can't stop preaching about the Roquan Smith trade from a year ago, how much it benefits them
Change their
now a year
defense.
later.
Change
It
their
changed
defense
their
completely.
whole entire defense. It unlocked the strength of the entire rest of the team on that
Yep.
side of the ball completely, man. Like I don't think enough credit is given to that side of the ball of how well they've been performing. And then the O line, here's the thing about the Ravens O line. I feel like that they're not getting to Lamar as much because the O line, I feel like Lamar has like 18 seconds to throw a ball when he
That's legit.
passes.
That's legit.
It really does feel like that. Like it's crazy. Like it feel like that they're trying. You can tell when the team is new playing against Lamar versus when you've played against him before and you still even though the Texans played in week 1, that was a long
Yep.
time ago, bro. Like
Yeah.
we in the playoffs now, and it just felt like that the Texans haven't really learned much from that first meeting. But it's also a part of it is that the Texans, they're young, they're up and coming, they got time to learn and grow. Next year will be a nice little fun rebound year for them as well too. They'll be a fun to watch team for many years to come, and I do believe in that, and I believe in CJ Stroud. But it was clear the Texans. This is why this was the first game that was on, divisional
Yeah.
weekend because it was projected that Ravens were going to be head and shoulders above the Texans, man. And I was not going as much as I like Houston, I would love to have saw an upset.
Mhm.
I just knew that the Ravens are not the Browns. They're not going to make the same mistake that the Browns made
Yeah.
when trying to learn how to play a guy like CJ Stroud.
Yeah, and it's like, the Texans, I mean, the Texans definitely got better from week 1, but so did the Ravens, and they had the best record in
Facts.
the league. But that's here nor there. In Lamar Jackson's 5 playoff games, 3 of those he's rushed for 100 plus yards in. He's 2-3 in the playoffs. Now he's got a chance to be 3-3 in next week's AFC title game. Chiefs Ravens Sunday, January 28th, 3:00 on CBS.
Mhm.
We'll do a preview of that this week. It's going to be a very fun game. I know it's 2 of our rivals, but nonetheless, 2 great quarterbacks are going after it and 2 great teams. So excited to talk about that. But let's go to the NFC here. Lions taking down the Bucks. The Lions are going to the AFC Championship game. Isn't that crazy? Our big cat brothers are going to the title game. Isn't that something?
I love it for them, man. Look, I'm not a Lions fan, but man, you can mistakenly consider me one, because I just know all of the history and the pain that organization have experienced, and it was incredible that they got that monkey off their back last week with the playoff drought. And I just knew that they were going to be a team that was going to play with house money going into this weekend.
Oh yeah.
The Bucks, while I really like what Baker Mayfield has done resurging his career, I already knew, man, it just wasn't going to be their moment. But this was an incredible game. It felt like that this game was like stonewall between two, defense at first. But then the Lions defense starts to bend a little bit, and it almost broke a certain way. But at the end of
Yeah.
the day, their defense made the big play in the end with intercepting Baker Mayfield, because there was people that thought that Baker was going to go down for this game-winning drive with like under 2 minutes to go, I believe.
Yeah.
And it felt like that could have happened.
Happened in
But
the first half. It happened first half. I
he
mean, they
did.
went right down the field, but a little different
Guilty.
story there. Yep.
It was, and the thing is, I just think that with the Lions, they just knew they were going to roll. You just kind of felt it. They were
You
going to
felt
rise
it.
to the occasion and just get it done, man. And
Yeah.
I'm just so proud of everything that this team has done for themselves with the city, the organization. Dan Campbell's one hell of a coach. He's one hell of a motivational speaker kind of coach. He understands the game of football. He is one of those true alpha coaches that you just want to run through a brick wall for, man. And I can't say enough good things about it. For him, maybe it may not be as much as X's and O's. He kind of gives like this coach Ed Orgeron feel a little bit, where it's like may not be so much about X's and O's. I know Ed Orgeron got fired at LSU, but he also won a national championship with
Yeah,
Joe
he
Burrow.
did. He did.
But he gives you that feel like where it's like he knows who's his main guys are, and at the end of the day, those are his guys he's going to lean on. Aiden Hutchinson was just a guy. He was just a dog, bro.
Yeah.
Like he was in
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield's lap, like a few times today.
Yeah.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson, I wanted him as a safety during the past offseason,
A lot
but
of us
didn't
did.
happen. Detroit got himself a nice one.
Yeah.
Brian Branch, one hell of a young safety that back there. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he was in on a couple of TFLs, tackles for loss.
Yeah.
But they've schemed up some really good stuff. Now, Aaron Glenn, I don't know how much attention or public that he's going to get as far as being the hot commodity name, being a head coaching candidate. I don't think he's ready for that. I think that if the Detroit Lions are smart, they retain him back for another year to try to run it back with him to see if their defenses improve. Because there are times that I felt like Detroit's defense pooped the bed. I wanted to say the S word,
They
but
did. Yeah.
I'm gonna keep it respectful. But
Yeah.
overall, again, another fun game compared to the Chiefs-Bills game. But you just kind of knew from start to finish that this is going to be the Lions' real game to win. They're the team that's playing with both teams are playing with house money
They
because
are.
no one expected them to really be this far. At least I can say more about the Bucks, but you just know that this was the Lions' time to shine. So I tip of the cap to Detroit, man. I'm real happy for them.
100%. Yeah. I mean, you're looking at it though, like you're talking about Aaron Glenn, maybe being retained. Ben Johnson, he'll find himself probably a head coaching job, I would say. I mean, a lot of people want him as their play call and their head coach. And looking at some of the stats, Jared Goff, 30 for 43, 287, 2 touchdowns, no picks. At the start of the game, he was a little shaky and stuff, but as the game progressed, he got better. And I'll tell you this, I've never seen a player hit so many in-breaking routes, 10 and ins over the middle. He was just diming him up because the Bucks weren't even guarding the middle of the field. They were mofo, middle of field open. Like there was just a lot of opportunities where it was just Sam Laporta going over the middle, was Josh Reynolds going over the middle, Amon-Ra St. Brown, on some drag routes or something like that. And then they were able to run the football as it got, as the game got later on and everything. Jahmyr Gibbs was huge.
God,
he had 9 carries for 74 yards in that long touchdown, which, really put this game at a different level. But, it was a heck of a game by this Detroit offense as it went on. Again, their defense, bend, don't break. But when they needed to get some stops, they got stops, and there were some huge third downs where they were able to get after Baker Mayfield and get some sacks, and just the ability to have some free rushers in the secondary. That was the big thing. Brian
Yeah.
Branch, CJ Gardner-Johnson, Melifonu. I mean, he had a couple of big plays today too. They have a very young secondary, but they were able to make some big plays today, and it was nice to see from Detroit. But yeah, on the Tampa Bay side of things, they got a bunch of people that are free agents this offseason. They should retain Baker Mayfield. They need to resign him. Obviously, don't pay him that like $40 million mark. He had a great year, don't get me wrong, but then Mike Evans is also a free agent. That's a big thing. If they got to try to keep him at all costs, but that's going to be a big story going forward. But the Bucs, house money, the Lions really playing with house money because that rookie class they have is unbelievable. So,
For sure.
and they still got another week to go with that. But,
when you brought up the Bucs list of free agents, I saw that list too.
Yeah.
One name I couldn't believe that's been falling out of favor on this team is Devin White.
Yeah,
I don't know what's going on with him.
That's a great question because that was the thing during the broadcast. Like, I hadn't really watched a whole lot of Bucs games overall, but they were just talking through the broadcast. They're like, it was KJ Britt that they said, yeah, KJ Britt's kind of took over Devin White's spot. And I'm like, wait a second, huh? Like I was like,
that's exactly what I said. He's been a healthy scratch a few times during this season. He played in last week's playoff game, but you barely saw him on the field as a starting linebacker this time.
He had one tackle today, and that's the thing. It's just weird because there's and to Britt's to Britt's help and everything. He had 12 total tackles today, so he was balling. But again, it's really weird because it was like they're like, yeah, Devin White, his spot kind of got taken by KJ Britt, and then they just show him over there sitting on the sidelines. I'm like, wait, huh? Like, what am I missing the whole year?
Bro, he's turning into how you remember 2017 when TJ Watt was drafted by Pittsburgh and they still had James Harrison. A lot of people don't remember that.
Oh, yeah.
James Harrison was a reliever on like third down packages and whatnot, but he was no longer the starter, and he was still in this, he was still playing at a good level, know. So it ended up getting very dysfunctional with them, and they ended up cutting him. And then he signed with New England, and they ended up going to the Super Bowl. But Steelers fans were sick that he went to New England, but he didn't win. They didn't win that year. But it just feels like that the same thing is happening with Devin White, man. And I always thought highly of Devin White. And if I'm a Bengals fan, I'm paying attention to that because a lot like I said about Roquan Smith for Baltimore, I think Devin White can be that exact guy that he just needs a change of scenery away from Tampa. He's not really he's fallen out of favor. Probably subdued because of the contract talks and whatnot. Everybody else got the bag and he didn't. And yeah, he had a big major hand in why the Bucs got to the Super Bowl in the first place with Brady.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you're a Bengals fan, that's a kind of a guy that I want on my team to plug right there in the middle with Jermaine Pratt and Logan Wilson. And because he's fallen out of favor, he ain't going to really command much money on the open market. I don't think. But the Bengals, if they're looking to go on, he has a relationship. If you're talking about LSU connection with Joe Burrow, there's a relationship right there.
There you go. Look for the connections.
Played with him.
Yeah,
he's played with him. He's played against him. And you heard about the insane story about Joe Burrow, cussing out Devin White the first year that was so funny, because Devin White was talking too much trash. He was a big guy, and Joe. I feel like you just need that kind of attitude on this Bengals defense. I'm not mentioning. I'm sorry, going in the Bengals talk.
It's tough. Yeah, we're in Cincinnati.
It is a Bengals. We are.
Yeah.
But Devin White, that's just weird to me. Like, why did he fell out of favor so quickly? But I think it's because of the contracts and things going wrong within the organization.
Yeah. It's weird though. With them, they picked up his 5th-year option. This is year 5 for him.
Yeah, he deserved it.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. There's just a lot of weird. I need to talk to some people over in the Tampa news industry over there. But I got to talk to them about that because this is just
for sure
a lot of mind blowing stuff. And then another guy, Levante David. I mean, age was a wonder.
He's a free agent too.
Yeah, free agent, had a sack, 13 tackles. Dude's 33 years old. So if he does end up leaving Tampa, I mean, someone's going to get.
I think he might just sound like maybe a 1-year deal next year or 2-year with the same team that is a retired Buccaneer. He got his ring, he's got his money. He ain't
He's
looking to try to ring chase anywhere else unless he wants to come to the AFC. I mean,
unless so,
we
but
need rings.
we need something. But yeah, I mean he he's had a great career and everything. So will be interesting to see how that whole thing plays out and everything. But it was a big win for Detroit. The Bucks, I mean, still nothing to hang their heads on. I mean, it 3 straight NFC South titles and everything, and then the one year they didn't win the NFC South, they won a Super Bowl. So that's good stuff for them. And yesterday, I mean, Niners Packers was something else. I mean, I was watching the game over here on Fox on my TV, and then it went out, and I had to go to a site to watch the game. I will not say what site that was. I had to go to a site to watch the game. I don't want any of that to be leaked. But yes, I mean, what a finish that game was. It was unbelievable to think. I mean, Jordan Love, did you see there was a side-by-side video of Brett Favre in the 2009 NFC Championship game throwing that pass over the middle, like cross his body for an interception, and then you had Jordan Love doing the exact same thing. Isn't that just insane?
It is absolutely insane. Yes.
It was unreal though, because it was like I was like,
crazy.
oh, they did the same thing and stuff. The interception looked the exact same too. The camera angle, all of this stuff was like, I was like, yeah, this is really weird. I kept calling Jordan Love the light skinned Aaron Rodgers. He's a light skinned Brett Favre to say the least. He's modern day Brett, but Jordan Love, I mean, he made some plays yesterday to keep this Packers team in the game. And special teams was a big thing because you had the Packers block a field goal, which halted the Niners from scoring anything before the end of the first half. And then the Packers had a huge kickoff return somewhere in the third quarter, fumbled it, recovered it. Then they end up scoring out of it. And then later on in the game, Anders Carlson, brother of Daniel Carlson for the Raiders, misses the field goal, and Brock Purdy has a game-winning drive in the postseason. I mean, this game was chaotic, to say the least.
So I'm not gonna lie. When before this game even kicked off, I thought the Niners was going to wipe the floor with the Packers. The Packers had their big time upset. They were 7 seed that went on the road to Dallas and upset the 2 seeded Cowboys. And I just thought to myself, all right, this is it. This is their highlight reel moment. Next week, it's going to be a slaughter fest. They're going to get their asses kicked. And no, that did not happen. And that told me a hell of a lot more about Green Bay, more so than the Niners, I should say. And that Green Bay is I said this before. I don't remember which episode that we talked about this on, whether if it was on our Running Through the Jungle podcast network or one of our Cut to the Chase shows.
Yeah.
The reason why us Bengal fans hate the Steelers so much is because they're a storied franchise that always feel like they get lucky. And every time that they play, it just feel like that the football gods are always on their side, even though that's not always true. When you think macro, big picture. But as a Bengal fan, in just the amount of upset and heartache that we've experienced, Pittsburgh doesn't experience those deep levels of heartbreak attritions like we have. And they always really get very fortunate and stuff like that. Plays always start going their way, and they just happen to find these magical superstars all over the place. Green Bay is very similar. And I watching them this whole entire year, they had to go through they had to go through some youth movement, obviously. They had to grow through their growing pains.
Yeah.
Jordan Love had to grow as a quarterback as his first season as a starter. And they grew to this very moment to where they should have pulled off the upset. I really felt like that they should have pulled off this win. The big time run at the end of the game by Aaron Jones, I just thought, like, okay, this game is over. It's over. I just felt like that you're asking Brock Purdy to do too much on things that he's not used to doing. And I feel like that the Packers defense, which was not as great during the regular season, they were kind of average to sometimes below average even. They just flipped the light switch, and all of a sudden, they're the steel curtain defense. They're not getting Swiss cheesed out there. It feel like that the secondary, especially the corners, they really don't even need Jair Alexander out there like that all the time, even though he's a big piece. Their safeties, really good. Their pass rush, really good. Linebackers, they're good on all 3 levels. So, and it's not like they got big time, big name players at the receiving core. A lot of it is doing, man, they just have to they just got to make sure that Jordan Love just knows where to go with the ball. Unfortunately, the end of the game, he had his Brett Favre moment. And it's funny that you brought that up because I know exactly the freeze frame that you were talking about
Yeah.
against the Saints in 2009. I actually watched Brett Favre. I grew up watching Brett Favre too during his prime years and stuff. So
Mhm.
I was able to witness him really be that super dominant quarterback that you thought was going to take over the mid to late 90s
Yep.
to him kind of phasing out a little bit. And it was because of his careless and recklessness. And when I watch his mechanics as a quarterback, I'm talking Brett Favre here, and I compare them to Jordan Love, that is exactly the guy that I think of that he's trying to be more like. I don't think he's trying to be Aaron Rodgers. Maybe he is in the say that like, oh, I learned from Rodgers. I know Rodgers does this. He
Yeah.
jumps off of the 1 foot when he throws. But when you actually take his placed mechanics, you compare him to Brett Favre, they're exactly identical. But the difference is he's not Brett Favre. But again, there's no shot at him. He's going to grow into his own guy, and I'm very appreciative of him. And I'm happy to see him do well. And it also makes the draft class of the 2020 quarterbacks look even better because Jordan Love came here and started balling. So
Yeah.
that's another shout out to him. But the 49ers, look, I'm glad the 49ers won. I did pick them to win this game, and quite frankly, we picked them to kind of win the Super Bowl. But if I'm the 49ers, man, I'm a little bit worried, bro, because you didn't look as great at this game. Fred Warner. I liked Fred Warner. I like Dre Greenlaw. He was the one that who got the key interception. I love that. I like their pass rush, but their pass rush is really still the same. It felt like that when they added Chase Young, they were supposed to get that big time boost to opposite Nick Bosa, but I just didn't feel like it was happening. It felt like
Yeah.
that he was almost like not there. He was just a guy, and that's troublesome and worrisome to me because, dude, let's say even if you are able to get past Detroit in the NFC Championship game, being at his show house, and I think that may happen. Who's to say that you're gonna have any luck against the Ravens? You already got beat by the Ravens, blown out, by the way. And then
Mhm.
the Chiefs, as fortunate as they've been, if they were to be in the Super Bowl, they already beat you a few
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
So, and you had a better roster than they had back that time. And the magic of Patrick Mahomes can still strike at any given moment. So, if you're the 49ers, man, you're my Super Bowl pick to win it all. I'm not feeling very great about this win, even though I feel good for Brock Purdy because it's like he's getting that monkey off his back per se, but it's more because of Christian McCaffrey than anything. So, and
Yeah.
George Kittle.
And that's a big thing. But then another big thing is, I mean, we're obviously doing the preview for this NFC title game, that Lions Niners game, 6:30 on Fox. I'll be back home watching the game with my family and my brother, who is, I mean, elated right now. I asked him, I was like, "Is this a mirage? Is this the 2021 Bengals going on right now? This is incredible." But nonetheless, uh, big person that we have to watch out if he's going to play in this game is Deebo Samuel, because we saw that offense
Oh yeah,
completely change when he left. Because
yes.
the first couple plays of the game, it was Deebo, Deebo, Deebo. That's all they went to start this game. And then once he got hurt, you could just tell the
It was
pressure was already
completely
on Brock
different.
Purdy, but the pressure really mounted again to Brock Purdy, who
Mhm,
had to make a couple of big throws over the field, and he completed a couple big passes. But then there were a
mhm.
couple of throws where they were right into the hands of Keyshawn Nixon and Darnell Savage, and it could have went a
Right.
completely different direction. It could have went south, and the Packers could have been playing in Detroit on Sunday. But it's crazy how how a couple plays can determine a game, how they define a game, and they can completely change the course and outcome of an entire NFL season. But the Packers, they're also playing with house money. They're a young team. They went to being one of the youngest teams overnight. So they have a bright
It's
future
crazy
ahead of
too.
them. Yeah, it's
That's
insane to
crazy.
think. They just turned over and they just got rid of everything that was kind of past due and everything, like Aaron Rodgers. But
I'm still
yeah,
thinking that they got Mason Crosby as a kicker, but
I know. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's crazy to think, but yeah, because Mason Crosby like played for the Giants for like a game. Again, it's weird. Just a lot of weird stuff for players that are getting older. But yeah, there are two really good conference championship games that we will give you guys a deeper dive and breakdown on. And I'll say this: I'm rooting for the Detroit Lions. We got to give the the analytics and analysis on both these games and everything. But man, I mean, it's been a pretty crazy weekend to say the least. And that Ravens game wasn't that crazy going in the second half. And last night's game was pretty wild. But then all day today it's been insane to say the least. I mean, it was
right.
a heck of a game in Detroit, heck of a scene to witness, and then your obvious Patriots. I saw Tom Brady on the screen, but yeah, I mean, it's your obvious Bills Chiefs game and everything. It's crazy though how the Bills. Isn't it just wild though how the Patriots dominated that division and then the Bills just took over and literally have not lost a beat off of it.
It's really crazy, and the thing is, that's why it hurts Bills fans because the reins were literally handed to you after Brady left.
Yeah,
Okay, if Brady was still in that division and still playing at a high level, you're not winning the division much, Bills fans and Bills Mafia. And that's why it hurts so much because you ain't capitalizing on these golden moments. Guys like Mahomes is standing in the way, Burrow is standing in the way, Lamar Jackson standing in the way. Guys like that are standing in your way, you
yeah,
know. And unfortunately, it's probably going to be a little bit more tougher for you because going into next year, you can't guarantee that other teams are not going to have injury problems and miss out on the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers is coming back, and you got Burrow coming back, and who knows what's going to happen with Pittsburgh in their quarterback situation and their defense coming back or whatnot. You just can't guarantee that you'll be right back where you are. I know the Patriots spoil everybody's minds, even Chiefs fans' minds, that they can make it seem like it can be easy. You'll eventually get a ring when the reins are handed to you, like it is for Josh Allen going into this division dominance. But dude, Brady had a stretch for 10 years where he didn't even win a Super Bowl. And even though he made it twice, he
yeah,
had he had guys like, well, mainly it's just Peyton Manning in his way, but
yeah,
and both Manning brothers in his way for the most
yeah.
part. But I won't say Ben Roethlisberger, even though he did play him, he dominated
Yeah,
the
but
Big Ben.
that's
So
yeah. You look deeper into the stats. It's Brady
it's not even a rivalry, bro.
owned Ben
It's really not.
Roethlisberger in that, and it's
Mhm.
you know I'll
I saw
save what I yeah. What were you gonna say?
What was I say? I saw a tweet, by the way, by Ryan Clark saying that, hey, Cincy fans, you know, um, Manning, I think he was saying like Peyton and to Brady versus Manning had rivalry too. There was a Big Ben, like that was his Joe. That was Joe Burrow, basically trying to compare Joe Burrow to Big Ben, while Mahomes and Allen is Manning and Brady, and
No, it's
a lot
Josh
of
Allen.
Bengals fans,
Josh Allen's
yeah,
it's Josh Allen.
Josh Allen is Big Ben or Philip Rivers without the trophy so far. But
Yeah,
but that's what the media wants to sell you on because Allen and Mahomes get a lot of press, more so than Lamar and Burrow and Herbert and all those guys. And I still to this day haven't seen Lamar in a commercial outside of that Heisman House commercial, whatever in
yeah,
college.
yeah,
He just don't
and
do them, and so does Burrow. He don't really do that much either. So
yeah,
those guys are not getting as much kind of claim to fame. Those are the guys that's kind of trying to prove it on their field. What
yeah.
I mean? Whereas the media has just been hyping up Mahomes and Allen as the Manning and Brady. And then they try to dim the light of Burrow, like, well, he's like the Big Ben, and you should be happy with that. Like, no, bro. Like, first of all, Big Ben didn't own both Manning or Brady. Okay, he
They,
got beat by those
both of
guys.
those guys, yeah, they had their
He was
way with
clearly
Big Ben.
outclassed by
Like
both
if
of those guys.
yeah,
Joe Burrow is combined 5-1 against Mahomes and Josh Allen, and that record is going to increase to his benefit as the future years come to head. I know Joe is not in the playoffs and Lamar is, but Lamar is going to have his fair shake with these guys too. Hell, he gets to see Mahomes again for the first time since week 2 of 21, where he finally
yeah,
got hit the monkey out back and won that game.
in that
But
stadium too.
yeah, but he's 1-3 against Mahomes, and he hasn't beaten Josh Allen yet. I don't think. I'm not. Again, don't quote me on. He might have beaten him 2019 when if they would have played. I don't know. I can't remember that season too
Yeah,
much.
it's a lot. That was a long
But
time ago.
he has a losing record against Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes to combine. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a fact. Okay, so
Yeah.
he'll have to prove that in his own little thing too. But it's going to be a great championship weekend, man. I am looking forward to it, even though it's two teams that I can't stand right now.
Two, yeah,
It's the
two that a
worst.
lot of Bengals fans can't stand. And then to leave off that point, by the way, Big Ben against Brady and Manning combined 3-10 in his career against
Never beat Brady in the playoffs either. So
he never beat Manning at all.
he's beaten. He never beat Manning at all in the regular season, but he did beat him once in that 05
He did
postseason.
beat Manning in the postseason that one time. That's right. But yes. So that'd be
That was
4-10. I completely forgot that game even happened. But yes, it would 4-10. So that overall, and then maybe you want to throw before we go on out, if any Bills fans or anybody that just doesn't like Cincinnati is watching to this point, I mean, You look at the Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes thing. Josh Allen, I believe, is 3-4 against Patrick Mahomes now, and all
3-4. The record,
three of the
yeah,
4 losses are in the playoffs. And then his record against Joe Burrow is 0-2. So we're
should have
looking
been
at
0-3.
Yeah, should have been. So
Again, I know the game got canceled and was declared no contest. The Damar
Yeah.
Hamlin collapse, obviously, but that
So
they were losing that game too.
we're looking at 3-6 combined record against those two right there. So, Ryan Clark, say what you want, but I think the numbers at this moment are kind of speaking for themselves. But again, 2 great conference championship matchups that are coming up. Next Sunday, we'll have you guys covered with all that stuff. We're excited to, to shed some light on that. But like being said, Justin Lacey, Chase Johnson, see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in.